Matt, you want to take us into first and 10, bro?
Sure do. I'm going to set up my timer here. This is first and 10. 10 news stories from the week that was and will be in 10 minutes. Here we go. Trubisky out. Foles in. And Foles in for good, it sounds like, at least indefinitely. Here's what's weird. I mean, Trubisky hasn't been atrocious this year. They were 2-0, and he's looked exactly like he always has, right? He is who we thought he was, to quote Denny Green. So now that we have Matt Nagy, right? Now that we have Matt Nagy permanently installing Foles after one half against a team that we know is known to shit the bed in the Falcons. Connor, are you confident that we're going to see the same level of Nick Foles going forward, and that Nick Foles is going to be the starter by the end of the year?
No, I don't think you should be confident in Nick Foles or Mitchell Trubisky, but I do like the idea or the philosophy of let teams prepare for one quarterback, let that quarterback play for a half, then switch her up, go with the other guy, and just keep doing that either 2 weeks at a time. You know what I mean? And I think that'll really allow them to get into the comfort zone. I think that's the way to do it for the Bears, because honestly, by the end of the season, both quarterbacks are going to look like dog shit, and the Bears are probably not going to move past either the first round of the playoffs or maybe not the playoffs. Have a quarterback.
The time-tested quarterback switcheroo.
Yeah. 3-0, and Bears fans are as disillusioned as ever about their team's chances. It's a Super Bowl or bust year for them somehow. Yeah. Moving on, 49ers coach Kyle Shanahan threw cold water on the idea that Nick Mullins would ever take over for Jimmy G once Garoppolo starts. That said, all Mullins did last week was throw for 350 yards with a 108 quarterback rating. And in 8 games in 2018, his rookie year, he threw for 2,300 yards and 13 touchdowns, had a 90.8 quarterback rating. Mike, why not roll with Mullins if he's playing well? He's cheaper and he's doing well.
Why not? I mean, he's got, I think, a little bit of a more lively arm than Garoppolo. I don't think his accuracy is quite there. But I remember after those first couple of games that he started a couple of years ago, Brett Favre was all over the guy. He loved him. He saw him as a second coming of himself, which is pretty high praise. I like Nick Mullins. I think he's exciting. He reminds me a little bit of like a Gardner Minshew, where he's got that kind of personality and charisma, but on the football field where he can really corral his other guys. So, yeah, I mean, you got to ride the hot hand.
And we know he's totally unheralded, so you feel like you're rooting for him over Jimmy G, who was the chosen one. Moving on, we know Russell Wilson is tearing up the league. We just kind of mentioned this next point. The defense stinks. So Russell Wilson has thrown 14 touchdowns. The offense is clicking on all cylinders, but they're winning games at the last minute. The defense is is 23rd in points against. They're the worst in passing yards against, third worst with only 5 sacks. And they're bad in the red zone. Teddy, I won't ask if you're concerned, because you should be concerned about this defense, obviously. But can the Seahawks keep up this style of play, and can they win a Super Bowl if they continue to play like this?
Keep it up, certainly. It kind of reminds me of what happened to the Steelers in the mid-2010s, where they went from sort of this, defensive juggernaut that won a couple Super Bowls with an okay offense to all of a sudden having all the star power and just nothing to stop them, and winning games 41-38 on the reg. If I recall, the Steelers did go 13-3 one year. So you can win with that formula, especially when you have a quarterback playing in his prime with a lot of weapons on the outside, just like Ben Roethlisberger had in Pittsburgh. Russell Wilson is firing on all cylinders. I think they can outscore anyone they play. It's never really been a formula to win a Super Bowl, but if anyone could do it, it'd be them this year.
I think you're spot on. I remember the 15-1 Packers in 2011. They lost to the Giants at home. And then the Broncos, when they went to the Super Bowl and got destroyed by the Seahawks, they were scoring 45 points a game, couldn't play defense that year. Moving on, Lions offensive coordinator Darrell Bevell basically named Adrian Peterson the team's number 1 back. That's after having drafted DeAndre Swift in the second round last year, having drafted Kerryon Johnson. And these are good running backs that they have on the roster. Adrian Peterson is 35. He signed with the Lions 6 days before the season started, and now he's on pace for 1,100 yards, and he's the clear number 1 over those other running backs. Connor, is Adrian Peterson the best running back you've ever seen of all time? Where do you rank Adrian Peterson now that he's continuing to produce?
I feel like Adrian Peterson is just what's fitting their situation the best at this time. I think DeAndre Swift is still needing to mature and become the reliable guy that they need. I don't know if he's the body type, but Adrian Peterson is that. Listen, I mean, anybody that's old enough to remember him at Oklahoma and watch him with his time with the Vikings, like he was a generational talent. Is DeAndre Swift and Kerryon Johnson that level or that echelon of talent at running back? No. But I feel like he's still got some miles left on the tires, and they'll use him because they have fragility with their other backs. So of all time, in my lifetime, no, Barry Sanders is still up there, and he quit while he was ahead. But I think Adrian Peterson realizes that he's still got some stuff left to prove. And
I'd probably go with Sanders too.
Yeah,
you're saying that Adrian Peterson is a glorified Frank Gore, which I think he would find some fighters over. Moving on, Mike, what do we do with the Rams? Are they good or are they not? They had that game won in Buffalo if it weren't for the pass interference. Then again, they had no business getting back in that game. They were down 28-3. This isn't really a news item. I'm just curious to know what you think about the Rams.
I really like the Rams. And this year, I'm really focused on coaching. I think that's obvious given my situation. But Sean McVay, after watching week 1 against the Cowboys, wow, he had such a great game plan. He kept the ball out of the hands of Dak Prescott in that offense, which was really good. So when it comes down to coaching, the Rams are going to win. They have the best corner and the best defensive tackle. So it's like when you have those two combinations on defense, you're always going to trust them. Now, against Buffalo, it didn't really work like that. But Josh Allen, we're going to talk about him because I honestly think he should be in the MVP race as well with the way that he's playing. The Rams are only going to get better as the season progresses. And guess what? Their schedule, pretty freaking easy. They still have a lot of games against the NFC East, so they're going to get better.
That's a bonus for them. Very quietly, the Browns are 2-1, tied with the Ravens for second in the AFC North. I know it's early, but they seem to have found at least a little bit of a rhythm with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt being the focal point of that offense and not trying to force Baker Mayfield to win games. He's got less than 220 yards in each of his games. Ted, have the Browns figured something out, or are we just overreacting because they won games against Washington and Cincinnati in the last 2 weeks?
So I did watch a good chunk of the Browns-Washington game on Sunday, and I was unimpressed with the way the Browns offense looked in general. They did enough to win, but they didn't do it convincingly. The score made it look like they won the game. And they were down, I think, pretty late in the third quarter. And I think that they just sloppily plotted their way to a victory. I hope that they do get Mayfield a little more involved, hucking the ball up. They've got some great wide receivers out there. And when I did see him get jazzed up, it made me excited for Baker Mayfield football again. And I kind of want that spark to come back. Chubb and Hunt are awesome. I love how they got Hunt involved out of the slot a lot. And Chubb's a great pure runner. And I think that they have something special in those two guys, but I don't think that this can be the end for the Browns offense if they want to continue to win.
Anticipating that this would happen, I instituted a done or not done lightning round for the last 4 questions of First and 10. So here we go. Connor, another week, another shitty outing from Carson Wentz. I've heard Philly nuts talking about getting rid of Howie Roseman and Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz, even though they won a Super Bowl literally 2.5 years ago. Connor, do you see Carson Wentz being benched for Jalen Hurts this year?
Oh God, no.
Say it. Oh.
No.
Moving on. Justin Herbert has looked phenomenal, Mike. But the injuries in Los Angeles compound what has been a slow start to the season. Chris Harris, Melvin Ingram, Brian Bulaga, Mike Williams, Derwin James, of course. Chargers are done this year, right? They have no chance of making the playoffs?
I think they do. But the Chargers are the Chargers. They've kind of been hit with the injury bug over the last 2-3 seasons. So I think it's only going to get worse for them. I mean, Balaga's out, right? So that hurts on the offensive line. But they still have a chance because I like Anthony Lynn as a coach.
Ted, you get the $1 million question. The Saints scored 30 against Green Bay on Sunday night, almost entirely through checkdowns and Alvin Kamara. And Drew Brees resisted pulling the trigger on some deep shots several times in that game when they were open. This is the talk of the week, and it was last week. Drew Brees is done, right? He's done.
I can't doubt him. I don't know what's going on. He seemed noticeably tentative, a little off target, but it's still early in the season, and he only had Michael Thomas in week 1, and I'd like to see Thomas back on the field and see what that offense looks like with a couple of weeks of reps, and they're the best wide receiver in the league.
Fair. He looked bad. He looked hulked out. He looked so bad. All right, last one. Yingling and Hershey have once again teamed up for a chocolate porter. This seems like one of the more palatable mashups between two corporate behemoths. Yingling just signed a deal with Molson Coors. They're going to be distributing out here, which is exciting. Have any of you had this Hershey's Yingling chocolate porter?
Yeah.
Is it good? What do you think?
I was at Yingling's brew house when they were dropping it. Actually, no, it was just serendipitous. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty good. I could do like a half pint of it, and then I'm like tired of it. It's too much. It's like dessert. You know what I mean? So, but I know people will go gaga over it. It's a tough product to keep on the shelf, really. So, but I can't get past their politics. So no, I'm not a fan of Yingling or this merger. So.
Yep.
I prefer the chocolate beer for dogs.
Ooh.
Teddy, nailed it. All right.
That's it for 1st and 10.
Oh God.
Love it. So fast.
All right, so now it's 2nd and 9.
You always leave me wanting more, man.